What a bewildering experience it must all be for the Sherpa Tenzing, to be carried from a remote mountain village and plunged into a welter of official receptions and speeches.
Tenzing and I have been climbing together a good deal, and I think we've become a fairly happy pair. And this was just one example of how a pair roped together are a unit, and how one is always protecting the other. I was leading down the icefall.
Throughout history, many believed no human could survive at the top of Mount Everest, until a quiet New Zealand beekeeper and a fearless Sherpa mountaineer proved the world wrong. This is the thrilling true story of Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay's historic climb to the roof of the world. Watch till the end to discover how courage, friendship, and determination conquered the impossible, and why their legendary ascent still captivates us today. Edmund Hillary was an unassuming beekeeper from New Zealand with a towering ambition. Tenzing Norgay was a seasoned Sherpa climber from the Himalayas who had already tried and failed to climb Everest 6 times. They came from different worlds but shared one dream: to stand on the summit of Mount Everest, the world's highest peak at 29,000 feet. Everest had foiled many earlier expeditions. George Mallory famously said he wanted to climb it because it's there, and by 1953, no one had reached the top. That year, the large British-led team set out to finally conquer the mountain, bringing together the best climbers of the Commonwealth and the strongest Sherpas for the job. Hillary and Tenzing, despite their different backgrounds, found themselves united in this bold expedition. The journey to Everest was an epic undertaking. Colonel John Hunt's 1953 expedition included over 350 porters, expert guides, and tons of supplies to support the climbers. As they forged a path up from Nepal, the team faced daunting obstacles, scaling the treacherous Khumbu icefall and inching up the steep Lhotse face towards the South Col camp. Early on, Hillary slipped into a hidden crevasse and nearly fell to his doom, but Tenzing's quick action with his ice axe saved Hillary's life. This harrowing moment sealed a bond of trust between the two men. After weeks of struggle against thin air and icy slopes, by late May the team had established a final camp high on the mountain. The summit was now within reach, and Hunt chose Hillary and Tenzing as the duo to make the next and likely final attempt. Before dawn on May 29, 1953, Hillary and Tenzing crawled out of their tiny tent perched at 27,900 feet, just below Everest's peak. The altitude here is known as the Death Zone, a place of bitter cold and very little oxygen. Hillary discovered his boots had frozen solid overnight, costing him 2 precious hours to thaw them out before they could start climbing. At 6:30 a.m., carrying 30-pound packs of oxygen, the pair set off on their final ascent. By 9 a.m., they had reached the south summit, a subsidiary peak, but the greatest obstacle still lay ahead: a 40-foot near-vertical rock face barring the route to the top. This daunting wall of rock and ice, with a sheer drop into Tibet on one side and Nepal on the other, would later be named the Hillary Step in honor of the man now facing it. One slip here meant certain death. Hillary jammed his boots and hands into a narrow crack in the rock and inched his way upward, wedging himself step by step up the icy wall. With one final heave, he scrambled over the top of the step and immediately threw down a rope for Tenzing to follow. Tenzing clambered up behind him, and together the two continued the last few yards along the ridge. Then, at 11:30 a.m. on May 29, 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay set foot on the summit of Mount Everest, 29,032 feet above sea level. They were the first humans in history known to reach Earth's highest point. For a moment there was silence, just the two of them standing quite literally on top of the world. Then Hillary and Tenzing shook hands, overcome with emotion, before Tenzing suddenly pulled his partner in for a joyous hug. In that thin air triumph, nationalities and backgrounds melted away. They were simply two friends who had conquered the impossible together. On the summit, the climbers marked the occasion in modest ways. Tenzing, a devout Buddhist, scooped a small hole in the snow and left a few chocolates and biscuits as an offering to the mountain gods, thanking Everest for their success. Hillary took out a tiny crucifix given to him by expedition leader John Hunt and gently placed it in the snow. They planted the flags of Britain, Nepal, the United Nations, and India on a makeshift flagpole for a photo. Hillary then snapped the iconic photograph of Tenzing standing triumphantly with an ice axe raised high and with a proud smile visible through his oxygen mask. After about 15 minutes on the summit, the two climbers began their descent. They had achieved their goal, but they knew getting down safely was just as critical. Carefully retracing their steps, they headed back towards camp, elated but exhausted as the afternoon clouds began to build around the peak. Hillary and Tenzing's safe return to the high camp was greeted with jubilation. As they descended, they ran into their teammate and Hillary's close friend George Lowe coming up to meet them with hot soup. Hillary's face was cracked by a huge grin. "Well, George, we knocked the bastard off," he exclaimed in classic Kiwi slang. It was a cheeky, jubilant statement of victory. Everest had finally been defeated. Word of the success had to reach the outside world quickly. A runner was dispatched from base camp to the nearest radio post in Namche Bazaar to relay the news in code down to Kathmandu and on to London. Only on the evening of June 1st did the climbers' astonishing achievement reach Britain, perfectly timed for the morning newspapers of June 2nd, 1953, the day of Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. The coincidence was uncanny. As the new queen was crowned, headlines blared that Everest was conquered. Jubilant Britons hailed it as a good omen for the new Elizabethan era. After years of post-war austerity and the fading of the British Empire, this triumph on the world's highest mountain was a sensational boost to national pride. News of the conquest of Everest flashed around the globe, with Hillary and Tenzing instantly becoming international heroes. In London, crowds cheered for the climbing team as if they were Olympic champions. The 33-year-old Hillary, sunburned, humble, and towering at 6'5", and the 39-year-old Tenzing, in his traditional Sherpa hat and shy smile, were praised everywhere they went. Queen Elizabeth II quickly knighted Edmund Hillary as well as John Hunt for the feat, turning the beekeeper into Sir Edmund Hillary. Tenzing Norgay, being a Nepali Indian citizen, could not receive a knighthood, but he was awarded Britain's prestigious George Medal for his remarkable role. In reality, both men always emphasized that the climb was a team effort. When pressed by journalists about who reached the summit first, Hillary and Tenzing refused to claim individual glory. and they insisted that they had stood on the summit together as a team. The press and public, however, couldn't get enough of the story. The pair toured England and other countries, attending banquets and giving lectures to packed halls about their adventure. From a remote Himalayan peak to the front pages of every newspaper, Hillary and Tenzing's names had entered the realm of legendary. In their later years, the two men remained lifelong friends and often spoke fondly of their shared triumph atop Everest. Edmund Hillary passed away in 2008 at the age of 88, and Tenzing Norgay in 1986 at age 71. But the legacy of their 1953 climb endures. They showed the world that even the tallest mountain could be overcome by grit and cooperation.